Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and thank you for joining us on another installment of From Sacko to Shiva, presented by 816 Podcasting. Today, we're going to recap all of Week 2's action, injuries, news and notes, and waiver wire targets. Also, we're going to hit some buy lows, Real or Mirage, and we're going to have an interview with one of the hosts of Mark Out Wrestling, Anthony Maiorino, who's also an avid fantasy football player. And with that, let's get into some injuries. I'm just going to read them off real quick, and then we could talk about them during the games if we want to. Okay, the big news is Greg Olsen out with a broken foot.
Not out for season, though.
Not yet. Jordy Nelson pulled a quad or something last night. Randall Cobb hurt his shoulder. Bradford hurt his knee. Gronkowski had a groin pull. Corey Davis hurt his leg. DeMarco Murray had a hamstring. Corey Coleman broke his hand. Rob Kelly, possible broken ribs.
Yeah, it was a lot of injuries.
And we also have Andrew Luck out for this week, just as an update.
Yes, that was announced. All right, let's just jump right into it. Well, we're going to do quick touches, guys, on the previous games over the past week and kind of give you some updates, and then we're going to jump right into waiver wire ads. So I got Arizona versus Indianapolis, and I'm looking at Brissett, 216, interception, Gore, 46 yards, a rushing touchdown. Doyle, though, was interesting. He had 8 targets, 8 receptions, 79 yards. I'm kind of interested to see how he does moving forward with Brissett as a QB. And then Fitzgerald struggled, Palmer struggled. I didn't like Kyren Williams from the get-go last week because he just never passed the eye test for me. They brought back Chris Johnson. He out-touched both Andre Ellington and Kyren Williams and was more efficient, 4 yards per carry. And then J.J. Nelson, 7 targets, 5 receptions, 120 yards, TD. Is J.J. Nelson going to be something moving forward? We'll discuss that.
I think he was a star of that game for me. The game I'm going to talk about, Chicago at Tampa Bay. Glennon finished with 300 yards and a touchdown, which is solid and decent. Cohen, I think, was the star of that game. 7 carries, 13 yards, 8 catches for 55. He kept them in the game. Kendall Wright, 7 catches, 69 yards. On the Tampa Bay side, they kind of rolled from the get-go. The defense held Chicago down. They couldn't do anything. Winston had 200 yards and a touchdown. Jacquez Rogers had 67 rushing yards and a touchdown. No receiving. Mike Evans, everybody wanted to see what he was going to do. 7 catches, 93 yards and a touchdown. The one weird thing was Deshaun Jackson never got really going in this game. Only 3 catches for 39 yards.
However, there were 2 other passes to him that were 30-plus yards apiece by Winston to Deshaun Jackson that were just missed catches or overthrown. I'm just saying, don't panic on Deshaun Jackson yet. He's somebody I would look to buy low on.
And then the 2 tight ends for Tampa Bay, still not sure who we're going to target in these games. Between them, they had 6 targets, 3 catches for 41 yards. Not sure I want to invest in anything in those guys yet. Although Zach Miller on the other side for Chicago had 9 targets, caught 6 of them for 42 yards. He might be a guy to look into if you're desperate at tight end.
All right. Moving on to Minnesota at Pittsburgh. Minnesota is terrible without Bradford. That offense runs through him. If he doesn't play, you need to panic on that team. Dalvin Cook, he had a 25-yard touchdown overturned, and it was kind of a bad overturn. Like, I'm surprised it happened. Other than that, you got Big Ben at home throwing 2 TDs. One to Juju Smith-Schuster and the other one to Martavis Bryant. Like I said, Marty B is at home. This is 13 home games, 12 TDs. He did it again. 4 targets, 3 receptions, 91 yards, doing what everybody wanted Martavis Bryant to do. Brown is Brown. Le'Veon Bell kind of looks like he's out of the doghouse. 27 carries. And 4 receptions, 4 targets, 4 yards.
He got more involved in this game than he was last week.
Definitely. But really, that's kind of all the takeaways. Cook still looked good, especially for a rookie. Yards per carry there. It's just, and you got Keenum throwing the ball.
Yeah, Pittsburgh could focus on stopping Keenan, so bring everybody up and go man-to-man on the corners.
Yeah.
Next game for me, San Francisco at Seattle. San Francisco side, the only real highlight I would say would be Carlos Hyde. 15 carries, 124 yards, 3 catches for 19. Garcon had 5 targets, caught 3 of them for 26. Hoyer really struggled, 99 yards and a pick. And then on the Seattle side, it wasn't much better. Russell Wilson, 23 for 39 for 1 touchdown. Had 34. He had 12 rushes in this game for 34 yards, which I thought was pretty high. The main guy coming out of this game, and I think, is Chris Carson. 20 carries, 93 yards. Baldwin struggled in this game. He had 6 catches for 44. Paul Richardson, here's an interesting one for you. He caught 5 passes for 19 yards and a touchdown with a compound fracture of his finger. And that led to Lockett getting more targets in this game. Jimmy Graham also got hurt in this game, so he only had 2 targets for one catch, 1 yard. And that's the quick recap of San Francisco, Seattle.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. Graham has 2 receptions through 2 games for a total of 9 yards.
That's on the almost on the drop side right there.
Yeah, it doesn't look good at all. I mean, that whole offense, that O-line makes me panicked about them. Next up, I have Miami at LAC. Cutler in his debut, 24 of 33, 230 yards TD. Jay Ajayi, 28 carries, 122 yards. Looked good. Interesting thing, though, a lot of people are on Jarvis Landry, and I don't blame them. The targets are there. He's a PPR monster, half point or full point. 15 targets, 13 receptions, 78 yards. Devontae Parker, 4 receptions, 9 targets, 85 yards. But here's a big difference. Landry, of people who had 5 or more targets, had the lowest air yards per target out of anybody in the NFL so far this season, with 5 yards. Devontae Parker, 21 plus air yards per target. I'm just saying that's a crazy average, and don't chalk it up that Devontae Parker had a bad game. I mean, he still had 85 yards, but look at it this way. Moving forward, if he has a better matchup, I like Devontae Parker for a bigger game than Jarvis Landry.
Yeah, I think that's that weird thing where, Devontae's going to be that go-deep guy and Landry's going to be the quick hitter off the line of scrimmage guy.
Yeah. And Rivers finally broke his streak. He only had 1 TD, no turnovers. So that's first game in 13 games of 2 consecutive passing touchdowns. Did not meet that. Melvin Gordon, 9 rushes, 13 yards in TD, 7 receptions on 8 targets for 65 yards. That was really good. But somebody, again, I'm high on. I am high on him for the whole season as long as he's healthy. Keenan Allen, 9 receptions, 10 targets, 100 yards. Again, no TD. But that is solid PPR scoring right there, guys. That is what we're after. And second straight week of 25% or more of the target share going his way. And another person that I think is out of the doghouse that people should realize, again, Antonio Gates broke Tony Gonzalez's record, but Hunter Henry, 7 targets, 7 receptions, 80 yards. Love him.
I think Hunter Henry's a guy to target out of those 2.
Yes. If he's available, you need to add Hunter Henry.
I agree. My next game, Buffalo at Carolina. Carolina's defense looked amazing in this one. They did everything to stop Buffalo. Tyrod was 17 to 25 for 125. He had 8 rushes for 55, so that saved his day a little bit. LaShawn McCoy struggled. 12 carries, 9 yards, 6 catches for 34. I mean, that's not what you're hoping to get out of him on a weekly basis. Again, Zay Jones struggled. Jordan Matthews struggled. Maybe, 60 yards between the 2 of them on 5 catches. It's not a real good day. And then the hot take for everybody was Charles Clay. He only had 3 targets, 3 catches for 23 yards. Not a good day for Buffalo.
I think Carolina may have one of those good defenses again.
I think they bounce back really, really well.
At least on the defensive side.
Cam Newton, 20 of 32, 225, 5 carries for 27. It's a decent day for Cam. Nothing special. No touchdowns in this game.
Yeah, I owe 10 push-ups, guys. We're going to do that on Facebook Live, probably on the Friday night show.
Okay. James Stewart was pretty much the bell cow in this one. 15 carries for 40 yards. Jonathan Stewart. Yeah, I'm sorry. He outplayed McCaffrey. McCaffrey had 8 carries for 10 yards, 4 catches for 34. And then Kelvin Benjamin, 6 targets for 77 yards. This is a solid day. No touchdowns.
No touchdown, but I will say that's great scoring for PPR again. Like, I was happy with that production. I actually got harped on by one of my best friends for starting Kelvin Benjamin. In one of my leagues, I did a hot take and I benched DeMarco Murray to start Chris Hogan in my flex. And you know what? I think that won me the week.
And Greg Olsen broke his foot again in this game, just so everybody knows.
You know, Greg Olsen had only missed 2 previous games, and those were in his rookie year back in 2007.
Yeah, he's been
I'm just saying, this is the first time he's missed a game since.
He's been quality starter there since he got into the league.
So does that put Devin Funchess up for you a little bit, or do you kind of just
yeah, here's a weird thing about Devin Funchess. In college, he was a big tight end.
Yeah.
So
switched to wide receiver.
And he switched to wide receiver, and he still has the same frame as what he was in college. So it's a possibility that they use him out of that flex tight end type package and give him some of those targets.
I've thought about picking up him in deep leagues.
Which game do you got next?
I got Washington at LA Rams, which was one of your picks that we had different. I got wrong, you got right. Washington went across the country and won in LA. Cousins, though, I am panicking on him. Like, if I drafted him, which I have no shares of Cousins, because I didn't trust any of this offense. Washington's offense is struggling, guys. Like, there is just something not right. So the only thing they knew they could do to win that game is to pound the ball in the run game, which was ridiculous. You got Rob Kelly, who broke his ribs, or a rib, 12 carries, 78 yards. Chris Thompson, 3 carries, 77 yards, 2 TDs. Samaje Perine, 21 carries, 67 yards. Okay, those are, man, that's a lot of yards. I think they had a total of 224 rushing yards or something like that. You can do the math. It's all right. Somebody, though, that I'm kind of still interested in had a bad game. Maybe you buy low on him. He's actually, I have him there in my column on that. Jordan Reed, 6 targets, 6 receptions, 48 yards. Not a good game, but you know what? Okay. Terrell Pryor, not involved until the 4th quarter. I mean, maybe he was in the doghouse for how many passes he dropped week 1, because he had 11 targets and, 4 receptions in week 1. He had 2 receptions for 31 yards. I think people are focusing too much on his overall, athletics. And maybe the talent wasn't there. I know he did great things with the Browns' 5 QBs last year, but, man, the fact that he can't repeat that with Cousins yet, I don't know if he's real or Mirage. We'll talk about that later. Then Goff did all right. I mean, it was a okay game. 224 TD and an interception. Gurley, I was going to sell high on him, but the thing is those receiving yards, the fact that he's that involved, and he looked way better in this game than he had in past. He was making those cuts. He was making people miss in space. He wasn't just following his O-line like he had been for the past year with Jeff Fisher. He actually started to warm up last week, and you saw that. But this week, you really, really saw it. He had 16 carries for 88 yards and a TD, 3 receptions, 48 yards and a TD. And if you take his receiving yards over the rest of the season, that's an average of 800 yards for the season. That's good. I like that. I like those odds. And then Kupp, Watkins both kind of struggled, or they just really weren't involved. But an interesting thing, Everett, their tight end, heavily involved. 3 receptions, 3 targets, 95 yards. A lot of their offense came against that in the past, but maybe that was because of Washington's terrible defense against tight ends.
I like Everett. He's one of my dynasty targets in drafts this year.
All right. That's it for that game for me.
All right. I got Cleveland at Baltimore. This was all about Baltimore's defense. They crushed Cleveland right from the get-go. Kaiser had 182 yards, 3 interceptions, 5 rushes for 26 yards. Crowell struggled, 10 carries, 37. Corey Coleman broke his hand. He did catch 1 pass for 9 yards. They moved the attention from the wide receivers to the tight ends. So between Seth DeValve and David Njoku, we had 5 catches for 88 yards and a touchdown, which is decent. That's how they got moving. Flacco didn't do too much in this game. 217, 2 touchdowns. Terrence West was the big back. 8 carries, 22 yards, and a short touchdown. The star of this game was Javaris Allen. 14 carries, 66 yards, 6 targets for 5 catches, 35 yards and a touchdown. He was the sleeper guy in this entire offense, and I think going forward, he's the guy you want to own here. Jeremy Maclin, 4 catches, 31 yards and a touchdown. Wallace struggled again, 4 catches for 21 yards. Another guy at the tight end position that had a good week, Benjamin Watson, 8 targets, 8 catches for 91 yards. But again, this was about how good the Baltimore defense was and not how good the Cleveland offense was, because it wasn't really there.
Do you think Watson finally fills that pivot role that they had last year?
I mean, I know that they have Watson and a couple other guys, so I'm not sure that Watson is going to be the top of that heap for a long time. Like, I think at any point, any one of the 3 guys that they have there could step up and take it.
Okay.
And that's all I got for the Cleveland-Baltimore. Who do you got up next?
I got Jets at Oakland. Again, we were both right on that pick. McCown was an interesting thing. Threw 2 TDs, didn't look terrible. 4 rushes, 31 yards. You got Jermaine Kearse, 4 receptions on 5 targets, 64 yards, 2 TDs. Do you add him in deep leagues?
In deep leagues, yeah, he's definitely a guy. Especially if McCown, gets him involved. I think that would be a decent target.
You need to drop Powell. No reason to own him because Forte looks better. Powell just, maybe he's too talented for that offense. Maybe they're really trying to lose all their games.
See, and this is one of the things that I talked about with a friend of mine, Adam Rice, early in the season. He was really, really high on Powell, and that's the only guy that he wanted. And I said, you got to be careful and temper your expectations, because if everybody knows that Powell is going to be the guy that they're going to run the offense through, why aren't they going to put 2 guys on him and make him beat a double team to get targets and looks and carries?
Yeah. And then you got Carr doing great. 230 yards, 2 TDs. And interesting thing, all 3 TDs went to the same person, Michael Crabtree. Okay, like I said last week, I was worried about Cooper in the red zone because he had 3 straight targets with 2 drops in the red zone. He just seemed to struggle. Their best offensive weapon is Crabtree, and that's because he's so efficient in the red zone. That's his role as a red zone. I don't expect Cooper to have that breakout year in the red zone. I think it's still Crabtree's job in 20 yards and less. Guy was very efficient. He had 6 targets, 6 receptions, 80 yards, 3 TDs, and all 3 of those TDs came in the red zone, guys.
That's a fantastic day for him.
So if you can target him like that, I know it was against a terrible Jets defense, but guys,
we've been touting Michael Crabtree even in the offseason of how good he was, so it's no surprise to us, but you guys might not have known how good he is.
And then Lynch, 12 rushes, 45 yards, and a TD. I was really high on Lynch. I thought they were going to let him have a big homecoming. That's not the case. I guess they just, I don't know if they're trying to save him or if that's just what they're going to do, really limit his carries like they said they were.
Yeah, I think that's what their plan is. They don't want to burn him out in his first year back, so let's limit him to 12 to 15 touches and move on to the next game.
And then Jared Cook, again, 5+ targets. He had 6 targets this week, 4 receptions, 25 yards. I know that's not a lot of yardage, but he's being targeted. That's what I like. Yeah,
targets are key for wide receivers.
Tight ends,
wide receivers. Yeah.
I'm just saying, in a tight end dependency, kind of need that production.
So my next game is Patriots at New Orleans. Offense everywhere. Brady was angry, so you knew he was going to have a great game. I mean, every time he gets pissed off at something, he has a great game. 447, 3 touchdowns, 30 of 39. He hit everybody that he was looking for. James White, 8 for 85. Brandon Cooks was the only guy that really struggled in this offense, and I don't know if it's a trend right now or he's going to break out sooner or later, but I would have thought that this would be the game.
Everybody said was all about this revenge game, but man, I was all about Hogan in this matchup. I had Hogan. I didn't have Brandon Cooks in one DFS. I had Hogan in almost all my DFSs, and it didn't look good there for the first quarter and a half, and then boom, Hogan starts just getting heavily involved, and I think he had 28 fantasy points or something like that, something ridiculous.
He had 6 targets, 5 for 78, and a touchdown.
Okay, 18.
Then one of the stories, is Gronkowski, 9 targets, 6 catches for 116 yards and a touchdown. A lot of people saw the highlights of him rumbling and bumbling and scoring, but he did get hurt on one of his plays. He later said that he was okay and that he would be fine the next week, so I'm not too worried about him. Breeze had a real good game, too. 27 of 45 for 356 and 2 touchdowns. Mark Ingram was the guy to own in the backfield this week. 8 carries for 52 yards, 2 receptions for 24. Although Kamara looked decent as a pass-catching back.
They only gave him, 1 rush, though?
Yeah, 1 rush for 3 yards. 7 targets, caught 3 of them for 51 yards.
I still like Kamara best in that backfield.
I do too. I think he's the guy that you want going forward.
I will say, though, most of Breeze's fantasy points and all that, yardage stats, all came in the third and fourth quarter. Well, very ineffective in the first half.
They're behind, so they got to throw the catch up. Mike Thomas, 10 targets, 5 catches for 89 yards. He's still waiting for his breakout game this year.
I have a question for you about that. It kind of always makes me worry that maybe Michael Thomas's production came because they had to focus on Brandon Cooks being able to just go over the top so easily. And Michael Thomas, got those one-on-one matchups, and now he's not so much getting those. He's facing better corners now, and he's not getting the second corner. And it's just, was his production last year based off of how good Cooks was doing too?
I would have to say that definitely affects it, but they're also missing Snead, and I think Snead gets another good corner, and that takes a little bit more pressure off of Michael Thomas to perform.
So would you buy low on Thomas before Snead comes back?
I would. Okay. Even though it's counterintuitive to buy a wide receiver when another wide receiver is coming back, I think it just means that Thomas is the alpha dog there, and that's who they want to go to because he's the playmaker.
Okay.
The only other guy was actually 2 guys. Colby Fleener, he was the weapon that they were going for. 3 targets, 33 yards, and a touchdown. And then Brandon Coleman, I'll just mention him real quick. He had a touchdown, and he kind of looks like Marquise Colston a little bit there. Okay. That's all I got in that game.
So I got Tennessee at Jacksonville. We both got this one wrong. We both thought Jacksonville was going to sneak out the win. And based off of the first half, you would have thought that would have happened. But Tennessee came in there and let Derrick Henry get them the lead and kept on feeding him because Murray was limited with a hamstring. Murray's listed as day-to-day right now. Henry looked great. 14 carries for 92 yards and a TD. Was heavily involved. Henry moves way up for me, especially with Murray day-to-day. He's 1A to 1B type thing. Mariota, I'm looking to buy low on him. He is struggling. And if you paid attention to how he has since he came into the NFL, his against a top 10 defense and against anything else, his splits are huge. It's like Big Ben road and home. Against easy games, he just blows up. But against tough defenses, he definitely struggles. 15 of 27 for 215, a TD, interception, 6 rushes for 24 yards. Definitely not like what we're used to with Mariota on those better matchups. And that was 2 straight weeks. I'm kind of looking at him buying low right now.
I think one of the weird keys to him is if he gets carries early in the game, he gets comfortable. Mm-hmm. I think he has better games. Whereas if he's just out there trying to gunsling the ball, he struggles a little bit.
All right. Then the other side of then you had Delaney Walker, 4 receptions, 4 targets, 61 yards. Corey Davis goes out with an injury. Rashard Matthews, 3 of 5, 43 yards. Fournette, 14 carries, 40 yards, TD, 2 of 5 on receiving for 21 yards. Then Allen Hurns and Marquise Lee both did well. I think if you're looking for garbage time plays and all that, flex options, DFS options, you're looking at Hurns and Lee. But that's really all I got for that game.
So before we get to the next game, I'm going to throw this question at you real quick. Who was your first concert?
My first concert was in 2009. Or not 2009. In 2000, I was 9 years old. My mom took me, my sister, and her friend to go see Metallica in St. Louis for Summer Sanitarium Tour. Kid Rock, Korn, Powerman 5000, and System of a Down were all there.
Nice, that's a solid concert.
In fact, the lineups went System of a Down, then Powerman 5000, then Korn, Kid Rock, and Metallica. That's how it went. I remember it very vividly. In fact, 98.9 The Rock was there, and I'm a 9-year-old kid. They handed me a super soaker that was the size of me, hooked up to a water hose, to do the wet t-shirt contest.
Nice.
One of the best memories of my life.
All right.
What about you?
My first concert was Garth Brooks.
I like Garth Brooks.
I know.
Stand by the fact.
When I went, I wasn't a country music fan. So it was my first experience of going to see a concert at a big stadium, and it was country. And I was like, I don't really want to go, but...
How old were you?
I was 19-ish.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I've been to some other like classical stuff, just grandparents taking me or something like that. This was my first real concert.
Okay.
And I have to say, after he did The Thunder Rolls.
Oh, that's a good song.
I'm a fan for life. I will try and go see Garth Brooks whenever I can.
What about Friends in Low Places?
Friends in Low Places.
That's a great one, too. Getting the crowd involved there at the end.
And I actually just went and saw him this year at Sprint Center, and it's still amazing.
Man, those tickets are so expensive, though, to watch one of his shows.
Yeah, they were. I don't even remember how much they were, but it's well worth it. And another interesting thing is I actually saw him perform in Central Park.
Oh, wow.
I was at the Central Park concert.
That's awesome, man.
Me, my friend Drew Clock, who listens, I think, every now and then, will listen. We rented a hotel room the night before, went out there, went to Central Park, found the spot, thought we were near the stage, and when the concert started, we were probably about 3 football fields away from the stage where we couldn't even see it.
Yeah.
There were so many people there, it was ridiculous.
That's crazy.
So my next game, I guess I'll hit the Dallas-Denver game.
You guess?
I guess. And I watched it, and I wasn't thrilled with it, but it was still a good game. Dallas just looked overmatched on the offensive side. To me, I felt like the best way to beat Denver was to run the ball, and I thought Zeke would have a big game. But he struggled. Zeke had 8 yards on 9 carries.
Denver's defense, like they used to be bad against the run and good everywhere else. They look great against the run. Like they think the only spot they're weak against is tight end.
Yeah, and I mean, that shows what Jason Witten did. 13 targets, 10 catches, 97 yards, and a touchdown. He was definitely the star in this game for Dallas. Dak Prescott, 30 of 50, career high in pass attempts, 238 yards, 3 rushes for 22, 2 TDs, 2 interceptions.
One of them being a pick six.
One was a pick six.
I saw Dak Prescott run after it to leave on that, and he was like, that ain't happening. Like,
he tried. No, not really, but he tried. Cole Beasley did decent, 4 catches for 33 yards. It's the no-fly zone. That's what they're going to do. They're always going to limit you on the offensive side to what they want you to do. Trevor Siemian was one of my sleepers of the week, and he actually performed really well.
I think we were both on him, too.
Yep, 22 of 32 for 231 yards, 5 carries for 14, 4 touchdowns, and 1 interception. I mean, that's a great day.
I will say I love the play calling on this because C.J. Anderson was so efficient that every time they're like, okay, they're not going to run the ball again, they're going to pass, they ran the ball again, and they ran the ball again. And then once they loaded the box, Simeon would call an audible, and like he wasn't throwing downfield. I think his furthest pass was like 15 yards, but then it was like 15-yard pass or 10-yard pass to Emmanuel Sanders or Demaryius Thomas. Boom. Trevor Siemian was very efficient with that, and I loved it.
Yeah, he was on fire. C.J. Anderson, though, I think made this whole offense go. Let's see. My stats are a little off.
What are your stats?
It says C.J. 25 for 18. I think that's 118. Should have been 118. 25 carries for 118, 1 touchdown. 3 targets, 3 catches for 36 yards and 1 touchdown. So, I mean, he was a focal point of that offense for the day.
Oh, yeah. And as long as he's healthy, he's their bag. They're going to grind it out. And the thing about C.J. Anderson that I've always liked, even when they're down and all that, he tries so hard every play down or up that he's always out there grinding. I'm surprised he fell as far as he did. I understand last year was kind of a bad year for him, but he was injured. As long as he's healthy, I love him.
He was another one of my targets during draft season.
Oh yeah, you didn't get him in the listener league because I got him for $7.
I had three strong running backs already. I didn't need a 4th one.
Yeah, 0.5 point per carry though. Come on.
Ty Montgomery, Devontae Freeman, Le'Veon Bell.
I'm just saying, Todd Gurley, Leonard Fournette, and C.J. Anderson. I'm pretty sure unless Eric Ebron has a ridiculous game, you lose to me this week.
Let's go, Ebron.
Ebron, man, he's going to go out there and do nothing.
He already has a catch.
1 catch, 8 yards or something?
Something like that.
I don't know. I'll look it up.
So, Demaryius Thomas and Emmanuel Sanders both had 8 targets, and they both caught 6 passes. Demaryius Thomas had 71 yards, where Emmanuel Sanders had 62 and 2 touchdowns, which he was also on my sleeper list for the week. So, I mean, I'm pretty proud of that. And then there was really no tight end that distinguished himself in that game, so I'm not going to mention any of them.
Yeah. Eric Ebron right now, 2 receptions, 24 yards. But you need...
I'm getting closer.
Oh, yeah. You only need 9 points.
1 touchdown.
But right now you're projected to lose to me by 1 point. Haha.
1 touchdown to Ebron. I should be good.
Not even 1 point. Like, it's like 0.6.
We'll get there.
All right. So, moving on to my last game. Man, this was a bad beat for me. And it wasn't even like it was a bad game. Philadelphia loses to Kansas City. It was a very close game, very hard fought. I mean, like I said, Kareem Hunt wasn't going to have the game that everybody thought he was going to have. I told you all that. Yeah, he had 2 TDs. That's fantastic. But again, you got to think 81 yards. Philadelphia's run defense was great. Kareem Hunt broke a bunch of tackles and ran free on a 53-yard touchdown. If that didn't happen, again, Philly's run defense would look a little bit better. Like we were saying, if Hill stopped, then it was going to be Kelsey. If Kelsey stopped, then it was going to be Hill. Hill got stopped. Kelsey had a great game. 8 receptions, 10 targets, 103 yards, and a TD. Fantastic game for him. Smith, I told everybody, was not going to repeat what he did week 1. It was just very unlikely. He passed for 28 attempts, 21 completions, 250, 1 TD, and 4 rushes for 21 yards. He was under pressure that whole game. He did not know what to do. I will say, again, week 1, a lot of it had to do. He had so much time to pass the ball. Philadelphia's pass rush was great. Then Conley, I actually thought was very interesting. Caught all of his targets. Was very efficient with it, though. 55 yards. I do like Conley in deep leagues. Moving to the other side of the ball, Wentz threw 46 times, 25 completions, 333, 2 TDs, 1 interception. That interception I'm not putting on Wentz. It was good play on Kansas City for Johnson just being aware of what was going on because it was a tipped ball off of Justin Houston, and Johnson just saw where the ball was going and then just caught it, and hey, that's what you want. Wentz also put up 55 yards on 4 rushes. Looked good on that. Like, I loved his mobility. I loved the way he stayed up in the pocket. Sproles, drop Blount. Like, no point in having Blount on your roster. He did catch did do a great job in the receiving. Had 1 catch for 0 yards. Only target. That was a little bit of facetious if you all didn't know. 10 rushes for 48 yards for Sproles, though. 2 of 4 for 30 yards. Ertz was very inefficient with his targets. He had 10 targets, 5 receptions for 97 yards. So, kind of made me a little bit worried, but again, Kansas City did a good job stopping Ertz, although Terrence Mitchell tipped a pass to Ertz for 53 yards. That was great. And then Alshon Jeffrey, very efficient too, guys. 7 receptions, 13 targets, 92 yards TD. I loved it. And the one thing I didn't like is Torrey Smith. I mean, he had 66 yards, 8 targets, 4 receptions. But he had 3 passes that were dropped by him. One of them was a touchdown pass. All of them he should have caught. It was in the hands.
I thought the Philadelphia Eagles played very well in this game, and I think they're going to be a playoff team in their division. They looked well. They looked good. I think they chose to stop Tyreek Hill, and that left open opportunities for the other players on the Kansas City side.
Yeah. But I mean, that's on the first quarter, too. Philadelphia lost 2 of their corners that they had already. One of them was already replacing another injured corners. Or no, we lost a safety and a corner. So, I mean, we lost Watkins, Jalen Watkins, and Rodney McLeod.
I watched this game, and Kareem Hunt seemed to bounce off every single defender that tried to tackle him.
Yeah.
Like, he broke at least 5 tackles on every play that he could touch the ball.
You can ask Anthony. During that game, like, they were saying, like, Philadelphia is doing a great job tackling. I was like, no, they're not. Like, they're not tackling. They're not wrapping it up. They're not finishing the tackles. And then right after that, Kareem Hunt breaks out for a 53-yard touchdown because they're not wrapping him up. I was like, well, there you go.
I think I got this one right, didn't I?
Yeah, you got that one right.
Okay, just check.
Although, I did get the Atlanta one right against Green Bay, didn't I?
We'll get to that. So Green Bay at Atlanta. Aaron Rodgers did his usual thing, 343, 2 touchdowns. It didn't look like a great game for him, but he finished pretty well.
That was garbage time.
A lot of it was.
I'll call that out.
Ty Montgomery had a really good day. 10 carries, 35 yards, 1 touchdown. 6 catches for 75 and a touchdown. Jordy Nelson got injured, so a lot of his targets went to Devontae Adams. 8 catches, 99 yards, and a touchdown. Cobb also had a pretty good day. 9 targets, 6 catches for 60 yards. Martellus Bennett, here's a key factor in this game. He had 11 targets, caught 5 of them for 47 yards, but when Jordy Nelson got injured, they started splitting out Martellus Bennett into the wide receiver roles. He actually played 60% of the game as a wide receiver in this game.
Yeah, and he wasn't doing very well. They were trying to get a mismatch, but it just wasn't working out for him.
I think Rodgers was trying to force the ball to him.
Yeah, I saw that too.
And so then the other side, Matt Ryan, 252 and a touchdown. This is a decent game, nothing special. I think the star of this game was Devontae Freeman. He had a really good game. 19 carries, 84 yards, 2 touchdowns. It was a day for him. Tevin Coleman, 6 for 42. It was decent. Julio, I mean, you're never going to stop Julio. 9 targets, 5 catches for 108. Sanu was their third down guy, 5 for 85 on 6 targets. And then Austin Hooper had 2 targets, caught both of them for 7 yards. Not a great day for Austin Hooper.
Yeah.
I'm thinking last week was a fluke with the long touchdowns.
Julio screwed me. I could have made so much money on DFS because I stacked him in a bunch of leagues. And I'm sitting there, I was like, first half, I'm like, 95 yards. I was like, yes. I was like, let's do 180 and a TD. I was like, and I'm like, that's gonna skyrocket me and jump me up into a bunch of cash. Like, I actually lost money this week, but man, I was just like, dang, like I was so close. Like, I had him and Matt Ryan left in a bunch of leagues, and just wah, wah, wah. All right, gentlemen. Tom's going to take over on an interview with a special guest from Markout Wrestling, Anthony Mayorino. He's going to ask him some interesting questions, and go Eagles.
Before we start, Julio didn't screw you. Green Bay not keeping it competitive screwed you and them not throwing downfield. That's like they didn't need to go to Julio.
Yeah, that's
and
true.
And also, go Chiefs, baby. This is Chiefs Kingdom.
It is the 816 podcasting team. Anyway, let's get to this interview real quick. So how long have you been playing fantasy football?
Since 2012. Yeah, my first year, like I didn't really know what I was doing. I went all by just like ESPN's rankings, and I got first.
That's not bad. That's one of those pre-rankings, just whoever you get, you get.
Yeah, that league was dumb. I had Drew Brees, Jimmy Graham, Jamal Charles, all on the same team.
Oh my God.
And just rape face.
So what's your team name in this in our 816 listeners league?
Too legit to cold quit.
Is that for the 816 people or anything in particular?
It's just, too good to punt, man. Score every time.
That's an interesting way to do it. So what's your favorite way to draft? Do you like doing an auction or do you like doing a normal snake?
Well, this year was my first year doing auction, and I gotta say, like, I'm just, like, sold now. I want every draft to be an auction draft.
I love auction. The opportunity to get the guys that you want.
Yeah, to have the chance to get any player is beautiful.
It's one of my favorites, too. Speaking of the auction, did you have any targets in the auction that you wanted?
Yeah, Russell Wilson, which I overpaid for, but the market demanded it. Jay Ajayi, who I was willing to go like 55 on. I got him for 49. And then I didn't want Shady, but I didn't want him to go where he went. So I ended up with him, and I ended up with Hyde. I wanted to go running back heavy, so that worked out, but it left me like really
lacking
for wide receivers. And that's the weak spot on my team right now.
It's still a solid strategy. Ajayi, Shady, and Hyde are still, the focus of those offenses, which is what you want.
I said Hyde this week, despite his recent success in Seattle. I shouldn't have.
He's involved, so going forward, I would always have him in there because they are looking to get him the ball, let him make the plays.
Yeah, man, that offense seems to run through him. He's doing good things.
Were there any guys in this auction that you wanted but didn't get?
Yeah, Michael Crabtree. I'm always high on him. But that's because I didn't have money when it went. I wanted Fitz. I thought I could buy him low and he'd have a kind of high floor situation because I was already strapped for cash, and he still went more than I could afford at the time. I just wanted one like top 20 wide receiver. I didn't need like a top 10 or anything like that or top 15, but I thought if I got a top 20 receiver, I'd be fine. Going quarterback heavy and running back heavy, and I didn't even get a top 20. I don't even think I got a top 30. My best receiver right now on my team is Jeremy Maclin.
Yeah, I mean, he's the number one guy in Baltimore, but he's not really...
Yeah, the touchdowns have saved him the last 2 weeks.
Yeah, I agree. Who's your favorite sleeper for this year?
Sleeper? Ooh. A pre-draft or now?
One of each.
One of each. Sleeper, I love Crabtree again, like just because how much he was used in the red zone last year, and Amari Cooper still kind of got his numbers last year, so I wasn't worried about that like affecting anything. I really like Kareem Hunt before the draft, but I didn't like where he was going. I didn't like him going above Fournette and McCaffrey, and that's my mistake.
I made the same mistake. I didn't like where he was going either.
Yeah, but now I don't know. I'm kind of wanting to sell high on Javarius Allen. What do you think about that?
I love Javarius Allen. I'll take him off your hands if you really want to get rid of him.
Yeah. I still think West is going to get touches. I don't think it's going to be become just his job. I think they're still going to split to some degree. Like, I think Allen's going to get most of the catches. Obviously, he's the PPR guy. But yeah, I don't like any kind of split backfield at all.
Well, and the weird thing about that situation, though, is when you do play in a PPR, Allen has a lot of value because of that, but West also has a value because he gets a touchdown.
Yeah, he's the goal line guy.
Yeah, so it's just a matter of which side you want to be on. My last question, do you have any advice going forward in fantasy football?
Don't be content with your team. Like, right now, looking at my team, it's 12-team league, 6 guys make the playoffs, so I think I got a playoff team, but I know right now I don't have a championship team, so I'm getting some fillers out there, making some moves, trying to just lock down a better receiver. I've got running backs to sell, whether it's Javarius Allen or whether it's Carlos Hyde. I'm keeping Ajayi and McCoy. They're just workhorses. I'm not too worried about McCoy's week last week. It was a tough defense, Carolina, underrated defense. And, that offense has to go through him if they're going to do anything. They know that.
Yeah, and I'm the same way. I'm never content with the way my team is. I always want to tweak it, make it better. Always looking for a trade that I could do to make my team better. Looking on the waiver wire, looking at who got dropped. Who's got a good schedule coming up. I always want to do those things to get ahead of the rest of the people in the league. So my final thing is do you want to plug your podcast on our podcast?
No.
Okay.
If you're a big fan of wrestling, man, Mark Out Wrestling, we're trying to do good things. We're having little schedule issues, but that's going to be worked out soon. My schedule's changing at work. And, here's an interesting stat, though. Kareem Hunt, 39 touches in his NFL career, has already broken 14 tackles. I love that.
That's amazing.
Chase thought that 53-yard run made his day, but man, he was looking good before that. Like, he wasn't really getting the yards, but he was looking real tough.
Even in college at Toledo, he was doing the same thing. He was just guys were just falling off him, and he just kept running. It's just one of his special attributes.
Yeah, I love this kid. He's going to be our guy for the future. Warrior's out of a job. He'll probably get traded or be the backup.
The next running back in Kansas City.
Yeah, for sure.
Thanks for stopping by, Anthony.
Thanks, Tom.
We'll talk to you later.
All right. Right now, the standings are me at 10-4, you at 11-3, and we got this last game, so it's gonna stay like that. Just a one game difference on our picks.
That's not bad.
No, not bad at all.
That's pretty good. I mean, going against the spread is a little bit tougher, but winners is pretty good.
Yeah, and I'm just saying, guys. Like, hey, we know what we're talking about. That's majority of the games we got picked right.
So knowing what we're talking about, I'm just going to recap the sleepers that I picked last week. Mm-hmm. My quarterback was Trevor Siemian, 4 touchdowns, 245 total yards. I mean, that's a beautiful sleeper if you could have grabbed him. Ty Montgomery, 2 touchdowns and 105 total. James White had 8 receptions for 85 yards. I mean, I'm fine with that as my second running back sleeper. Emmanuel Sanders was my other guy I mentioned, 65 yards and 2 touchdowns. I'm still good. That's still solid numbers right there. My second wide receiver is a little bit shady, but Teddy Ginn Jr., 3 for 24. My sleepers at tight end, I had Kobe Fleener. He had 33 yards receiving and a touchdown. That's still not bad. Martellus Bennett, he had 5 catches for 47 yards, and I got Eric Ebron playing right now as we speak.
Yeah. So for me, on my start, sits, and sleepers, last week, you got to keep in mind, guys, this was a terrible week for QBs all the way around. Like, there was only, like, the difference between, like, 5th overall and 6th overall in QBs, I think was almost like a 9-point difference. So it just wasn't good. But Palmer did okay, did serviceable. Rivers did serviceable. Those were my start and sleeper, and I also had Derek Carr. I also said sit Cousins, which was a good call on that. Mm-hmm. Lynch did serviceable, so did Forte. Neither of them did good. Ellington, I was kind of going out on a limb, but Arizona just looks terrible. And then I said sit Blount, which was a good call. Devontae Parker did all right. Larry Fitzgerald, I was kind of torn between him and J.J. Nelson, but I gave it to Fitz. Didn't really work out for Fitz. Should have went J.J. Nelson. Corey Davis got injured. I can't predict that. And then T.Y. Hilton was garbage as well. Zach Ertz and Delaney Walker both did good for tight ends. And then my sleeper of the week was Jack Doyle, who did pretty good. And then I said sit Jesse James because I thought everything he did the week before was a mirage. And so I did great on tight ends. Wide receivers was the only one I really did good on was Parker, starting Parker and benching Hilton. And yeah, other than that, they were kind of just pushes almost.
Yeah, not too bad. Nothing great. Nothing outstanding. What do you want to do next?
What do we got next? Let's do some ad drops or
okay.
Get into that.
Waiver wire ads. That's what I got them listed as.
Yeah, waiver wire ads. Let's do it.
Okay, so the number one, we've talked about him for 2 weeks now, is Buck Allen.
Yes. That, majority of your fab should go towards him. If he's available, that's who you're targeting.
He outsnapped Terrence West by a bunch, and he got a touchdown. He catches the ball out of the backfield, so Flacco loves to throw the ball out to the little flats, and let Buck Allen do his thing. So, yeah, he's the number one target. Who do you got next?
I actually have Chris Carson's next.
Mm-hmm.
He just looked efficient, broke 100 yards, 21 carries. Was it 100 yards?
100 total.
Yeah, 100 total. So I'm just saying, the guy is their back. Thomas Rawls was back, looked very inefficient. Eddie Lacy was a healthy scratch. I'm going Carson.
Yeah, I agree. Carson is going to be that guy going forward.
And that's my number 2 behind Allen this week.
He's also my number 2. My next guy is Chris Thompson in Washington.
Definitely.
3 carries, 77 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 catches for 29 yards.
Did Jay Gruden's little spiel about we don't forget fumbles kind of make you worry because Thompson has that fumbling problem?
I mean, for certain players, I think it matters, and certain players, I think it doesn't matter. I think you have to get the talent out on the field to make the plays for you, and I think that's what Chris Thompson does there.
Okay. What about Pirine in that offense? I have Thompson and Pirine kind of right next to each other. He had 21 carries in that game.
Yeah, and I think he's going to be the pounding guy, take over for Rob Kelly if Rob Kelly misses a bunch of time.
All right.
Another solid play, but he's more the standard league guy where Thompson is going to get those catches and flares and that kind of stuff.
I got you. Next up, I actually have somebody that's kind of interesting. I got Trevor Siemian, guys. Man, he looks competent. I think if he plays like he did the past 2 weeks, easily, he could finish top 10 QBs. And right now, every QB is struggling. It's just a bad season for QBs.
He looks a lot more confident in that offense and trusting the players around him than he did in the years past.
And yeah, I know he went against a bad Dallas defense who lost 2 of their starting corners right off the bat in that game. So now, a already weak secondary just became even weaker.
I believe that's 8 touchdowns in the first 2 weeks.
Yeah, because he had 3 passing last week and a rushing, and then he had 4 passing this week.
Yeah, that's a pretty good first 2 weeks. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's see. My next guy, Alvin Kamara.
I love Alvin Kamara. I actually picked him up in a few leagues last week. We told you all that was the guy. The snap percentage 31, 12 to 9 on the previous week. I'm just saying, Kamara was leading it.
I think Adrian Peterson is getting in a doghouse for what he's saying there, which opens up the door a little bit for Kamara. He's not a big rushing guy. He only had 1 rush this week for 3 yards. 7 targets for 3 catches and 51 yards. That's huge value in a PPR league.
Yeah.
I think that's the only other... Oh, I got one other running back, Derrick Henry. I mean, he's owned in a lot of leagues, so he might not be out there. But
he's still available in 35% of leagues.
That's crazy.
He should be 100% owned.
He should be.
The last one I got is J.J. Nelson.
Mm-hmm.
I love J.J. Nelson going forward, guys. With John Brown dealing with his sickle cell and always being out due to injuries, J.J. Nelson looked like he had the best rapport with Palmer and had 4 receptions, 120 yards, and a TD, guys. Very efficient. I'm just saying he had 7 targets as well. I like J.J. Nelson, whether it's DFS, deep leagues, get him, start him. I've been tuning this one for the past 2 weeks.
Yeah, I think the chemistry is there with him and Palmer. And it doesn't help that Fitzgerald had a bad game and he had a great game, or a good game. I mean, 5 for 120 and a touchdown is a pretty good game. It's a solid game. I like Nelson going forward. The only other guys that I have, and I'll just mention them quick, we don't have to go over stats, Marquise Lee and Allen Hurns, Jacksonville. Garbage time stats for both these guys in that Jacksonville offense. You never want to go too much on them. I've got Curse with the Jets. He's another guy, if he gets the chemistry with the quarterback there, he's going to get some points. And Higgins in Cleveland. He might be the guy that takes over Corey Coleman's wide receiver duty there. And that's all I got for waiver wire ads.
All right, do you have any buy low targets that you're kind of looking at right now?
My favorite one is AJ Green.
Yeah, I'm targeting AJ Green if I can for the right price. Definitely not going to overpay. I'm a little bit more optimistic with the change of offensive coordinators, but that's still yet to be determined. And they do have some pretty good matchups coming up.
The other guy that I like there is also Gio Bernard.
Ooh, I like it.
What I've been reading about the new offensive coordinators, he likes to get his backs more involved. So whether that's Mixon or Gio, I think going forward might be a mixture of both of those guys.
All right. I actually have Mariota as one of my buy lows. And Jordan Reed.
I love Reed. I always think that he's going to do more than he does. In one of these weeks, he's going to break out.
All right.
Mariota was a little bit iffy early in the season. You know, he's still struggling a little bit, but I think he'll get going.
Like I was saying, it's those tough defenses splits that he has. Like it's so drastic, but I do like Mariota. He's usually better near that last of the season.
I'll give you one guy. I'm not ready to give up on his talent yet. Is Terrell Pryor?
Man, I'm not buying it.
Well, here's the thing: you could get him almost for a tight end. So at that point, it means you're bringing on a guy with tremendous amount of talent on your team that goes to a passing offense for a tight end. I mean, if I could do that in every league, I would go after Terrell Pryor.
Okay, that's a fair argument, but if I can't get him, with what I believe people are going to be asking for him, I'm not, with what the draft capital that was spent on him to get him and what people would probably ask in return, even with him struggling, I don't think he's going to be that good this year. That whole offense has question marks all around it.
Okay, that's what you see. I might see a little something different, but that's okay.
That's why we're here. Hey, disagreements, we got to keep it up.
So I got one real quick question. Who is your favorite performer? Artist, performer, anything like that?
Favorite performer I've ever seen live is actually tied between two different types of people. And it's both concerts. Elton John. I'm not even a big Elton John fan, but man, one of the best stage performers ever. And then the other one's Avenged Sevenfold. Another great stage presence. They really get the crowd involved. And Elton John has jokes, brings us, on the last song, he brought the first 6 rows of the concert up on stage for the last song. And they were just all up there singing and dancing. And I was like, that's pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
All right, I actually have a couple sell high people that.
Let me do my favorite performer real quick. I've already gone over it. Garth Brooks is my favorite performer. To me, he is amazing. Every time I get to go see him, it's a great show. Okay, go ahead.
No, I'm sorry about that, Get. All right, so I'm actually wanting to sell high on 3 people. And 2 of them aren't even really high, but it's probably the last time you're going to get anything worth the value in return. Terrence West and Jordan Howard. If you can get rid of them for something decent right now, do it while you can, because it's not looking good.
Yeah, I agree. Jordan Howard banged his shoulder up a little bit, so that gave Cohen a little bit more run than he normally gets. But Cohen's not going to go in there and take over that role. They're going to give it to somebody else.
Yeah.
So if you can get rid of Howard for something decent, I would try and do that.
I agree. And then the last person is Marshawn Lynch.
I like Marshawn Lynch, yeah.
I would sell, because with the way they're going to limit his workload, he should have had a lot more carries in that game, especially with the game script. The way they limited him, man, I would rather get something more valuable. I actually don't have any Marshawn Lynch stock, but if I did, I'll definitely try and get rid of him for something. I
would definitely too. I think they're, for the entire season till possibly the playoffs, they're going to try and limit his carries to below 15 or less.
And I think you could easily turn him into maybe a Derrick Henry and wide receiver too.
Yeah.
Like, I'm just saying, Derek, like, that gives you high upside with Derrick Henry, and then get a serviceable wide receiver too.
T.Y. Hilton, Derrick Henry?
Yeah, I'll do that in a heartbeat. Like, that's, like, I understand T.Y. Hilton's not looking good, but if Andrew Luck comes back, T.Y. Hilton in the playoffs looks a lot better.
Yeah, I think so too. And I guess T.Y. Hilton would be one of my buy lows just for that fact. We haven't seen him with Luck yet, so.
I've already made a couple offers on T.Y. Hilton's in a few leagues.
I like that idea. Maybe I'll start doing that.
All right, let's get into Real and Mirage. Got a couple questions for you. Who do you have for Real?
I got Jay Ajayi as for Real.
Yeah, you got to buy into that. That workload is there. Like, that's just stud muffin all the way around.
Yeah, I think that's what Miami wants to do. They want to pound that ball, play action, throw it deep, or check down to Jarvis.
All right. What about Dez Bryant?
I think the first his numbers right now are Mirage. He went against two really, really tough defenses, and I could see those numbers just getting better and better as the season goes on.
I disagree. I think it's real because he only has 3 matchups this year that don't have a name-worthy cornerback against him. The rest of his schedule is all tough, and he struggles so bad against them, and I don't think Dez is the lead anymore. And man, I'm not high on him. I don't think he does what Dez Bryant does.
Dez Bryant or Michael Thomas?
I want Michael Thomas.
Interesting.
I take it you want Dez.
I mean, that's a tough call for me because they're right in that same draft range, right in the same area.
Yeah. And like you said, with Snead back, that Michael Thomas moves up.
I might take Michael Thomas on this one, but I still believe in Dez Bryant's talent.
All right. Okay. I got a different one. Dez Bryant or DeAndre Hopkins? That's probably where I'm at. I think that's where the line really is.
I think you can go either way on this one. I think that Hopkins is going to get zeroed in on by Watson, and that's going to make it a little bit harder for him to catch those balls. Where I see Dez being an option, and he doesn't have to go to him every single time. I'll take Dez. I'll take Dez in that one.
That target share for Hopkins, man, I think I'm going to lean Hopkins. It's a tough one, but I think that's where the line is.
Yeah, that's definitely a tough call. Who else do you have for Real?
For Real, Keenan Allen, guys. 2 weeks, 25+% of the target share, and he was efficient with both of them, both weeks. Yeah, PPR standard, I don't care. I want him.
He's a PPR monster. He might not get all the yards, but he's going to get all the catches.
All right, who do you got next for Real and Mirage?
How about Tyler Eifert? Where do you put him? Real or Mirage?
I think it's a Mirage. I think with the change of offensive coordinator, I'm being optimistic. Maybe I'm too optimistic, but I think it can definitely help Eifert moving forward as long as he stays healthy.
I like Eifert, and I think it can only get better because he's almost at the bottom of the tight end barrel right now.
Yeah. Would you buy low on him, or would you stay away from him?
I'm a sucker for talent, and I think he has a lot of talent. Although my friend Kyle Jones told me a story where he got kicked out of his casino last week, so I'm starting to waver on his talent issues. I'd buy low if I could.
Okay. All right. What about Brandon Cooks? Real or Mirage?
This is a tough one because I watch the games and I see the talent and I could see him beating guys and he's just not getting the deep balls to him for some reason. I think it's real. Like I think this is what we're going to see: 3 catches, maybe 5 catches. But I think this is what we're going to get out of him for the season.
He's kind of like Hogan's role last year.
Yeah, go deep. Let me see if I can hit you. If I can, I'm going to dump it short.
Yeah, and Hogan didn't really produce last year, and now Brandon Cooks. I think it's real as well. I don't think Brandon Cooks is going to be where people drafted him. I think he's definitely going to fall outside probably the top 30 this year.
I agree. I don't think he was as good as what he was drafted as.
And if you look last year, he had more outside of the top 30 games than any other receiver that had any top 5 games. He had, I think, 2 top 5 games, and then the rest were almost like borderline outside the top 30.
I think a lot of people drafted him to be the number 1 guy, wide receiver on their team, and I always felt like that was a mistake.
I liked him as a low-end wide receiver too, but I wasn't high on him at all.
Yeah, I'm not.
I've always thought like Hogan had the same talent. Like they're both burners if you give them a chance.
How do you feel about Ty Montgomery?
This one's kind of a tough one for me, but with as many injuries that have just happened to Green Bay, I think he has to be real. Green Bay needs him to be real.
Yeah, and I'm a Green Bay fan, and everything that I've seen from this guy is he's real. You know, he may not be the strongest guy at running the ball between the tackles, but you get that ball in a passing situation to him, and he's going to make plays. And I think that's what Green Bay needs on the offensive side.
What about Jack Doyle?
Jack Doyle, I would feel a whole lot better about Jack Doyle if Andrew Luck was in there. But Brissett seems to like him as a tight end and as a playmaker, so I'm kind of lukewarm. He's not a real or a Mirage yet. I want to see more.
I can agree with that.
How about Carson Wentz? What do you think about him?
Oh, he's real. Like, I know I'm biased, but you got to look. Like, he had pressure on him the whole time against Kansas City yesterday, and the guy is still extending plays. In fact, D4 to the Kansas City Chiefs said he's a smaller Big Ben. Like, that's a big compliment. You got to understand, Big Ben's a great QB, and it's hard to bring him down. He extends plays with his body, with his feet. You can be dragging on him. In fact, there was one sack that, like, I'm sure D Ford knew what he did, because as soon as he grabbed Carson Wentz's face mask, he let go and then went down to the shoulder, and Carson Wentz stood up and was like, hey, man, he had his hand right here. Like, what am I supposed to do? Because he was breaking the tackle. Like, the thing is Carson Wentz is able to break those tackles like Big Ben.
I think he's also for real. That, you know, you get to watch the game and you get to see him in his decision making and the way he makes the throws, and you know, his scrambling ability is crazy.
Yeah, and the ability to run for first downs. Like, last year they didn't see it too much, but this year he's definitely a lot smarter with it. He's being more mobile, and I like it. I think he's for real.
I think the Eagles are going to be in the playoffs this year with the team that they have.
I think they win the division.
I mean, yeah, I could see that. Who are you afraid of in the division? Dallas? Giants?
Dallas doesn't have a defense, so I think our run defense is a lot better than it was last year. But Dallas is probably the closest to it. So yeah, I think
Washington, maybe.
No, I don't. I'm not scared of Washington. I think they lose the division. I don't think they win more than 6 wins this year for Washington.
Yeah,
and I think Giants are in third, and I think they finish 8-8 with Odell back, and then because I think they lose tonight, and then I think Dallas is in second, and I think Dallas can easily be a 10-win team again, 10+ win.
I could see the Eagles win and Dallas finish second. I think the Giants are the bottom, and Washington is third. So I got one more: hype or real. Jason Witten.
I think he's real. And before you get into yours, because I know you're probably going to disagree with me, it's because Dez Bryant, every time Dez Bryant has a tough matchup, where do you see Prescott go towards? He goes towards Cole Beasley and Jason Witten. Mm-hmm. He goes to his security blankets. And I think that's Jason Witten. I think you can see him at least 6+ targets every game.
I mean, 6 targets is good for a tight end, but to me, he's not a real weapon. He's just a guy you throw the ball to and he falls down. And he's done that really, really well in these first 2 games. But I think going forward, the focus is going to start changing from Witten to Dez or to Cole Beasley or to Zeke in the flat. I appreciate his production early on, but I think it's going to move on to other players coming up.
Okay. I got one last one. Terrell Pryor.
I love Terrell Pryor's talent. And I don't think that the numbers that he's put up early in the season is what is going to be at the end of the season. Like, I could see him outperforming everybody what they thought going forward.
Where do you see him finishing as a wide receiver this year? Like top 20, top 10, outside the top 20?
I think it's right outside the top 20, so like probably 24, so a low-end number 2.
Okay. I can agree with that, but like, I don't think people, like, with what they drafted him for, I don't think he's going to finish as that, which was a high-end wide receiver, too.
Well, who would you rather have, Brandon Cooks or Terrell Pryor?
Brandon Cooks. And that's just because QB talent.
And this is where I would have a toss-up, is I want the bigger guy in this situation. And I know Terrell Pryor probably runs just as fast as Brandon Cooks. So I want Pryor.
Okay. It's a tough one. I won't lie. The one thing that like would sway me is because of the target share in week 1 for Terrell Pryor. But again, there's too many question marks around that offense right now. I'd rather go with this. It comes down to, do I want Cousins or Brady?
I mean, Brady is definitely the better talent, but I think Cousins is going to be right there with them throughout the season. You know they're both going to throw the ball a chunk. You know Cooks is going to be probably not the number one guy there. It's going to be split up between him, Hogan, and Gronkowski, and James White for targets. Where if you flip it to the Washington side, who do you have? You know, Chris Thompson coming out of the backfield, Jordan Reed if he's healthy, Jamison Crowder on the other side or the slot, and then you got Terrell Pryor. And I think Terrell Pryor's market share for catches is going to be higher than Brandon Cooks will be.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that wraps up another installment of From Sacko to Shiva with Chase and Tom. We thank you for joining us, and we invite you to follow us on Facebook, YouTube, subscribe, like, share, SoundCloud, Twitter. Hit us up with mailbag questions. We didn't get any this week. We would like to have some more. It's always great to hear your all's input and have your all's questions on the show, give you all shout outs. We appreciate all the listeners. It was crazy. We had like 67 views in a day, which, again, I understand there's people getting millions of views in a day, but you gotta think this is all friends listening, and we thank you guys. You all are doing a great job for us, and we love the support. Keep on listening, and if you're a wrestling fan, WWE, NXT, whatever it is, Anthony Mayorino and Glenn Smith do a great job covering it on Markout Wrestling. And keep on looking out for our episodes. Our episodes will be recorded on Fridays and Mondays, so they can be out on Saturdays and Tuesdays. That way you can listen to it a day before games and a day before Waiver Wire. That way you can actually get it out. We're still learning, so if you all have any input or anything you all would like to add or think we can do better on, please let us know. Inbox us, make a post on 816 Podcasting Facebook page, and just give us a shout out and let us know what you think we can do better on.
Thanks for listening, guys. And just real quick, our last episode that we recorded had 131 views right before I left to do this podcast. So somebody out there is listening to us and viewing our page and liking us. So that's a good thing. That helps us to keep going, helps us to know that there's people out there that like what they're hearing from us. So thank you for listening. Get the word out. Like, share, subscribe, do all that good stuff. Make sure you listen to our other 816 podcasters out there. Get them some love too.
Also, Tom and I have been discussing about doing a Facebook Live podcast episode, and I'd kind of want to know what your all's input on it is on that. If you all would like to watch that, be able to see the discussion live and see how we go through our process. Let us know in the comment section on 816 Podcasting or in YouTube, and we'll definitely check it out and see what you all think about that.
Thanks again, guys.